Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ginger Gaming Radio, where it is the last week without our resident Ginger. I am here with Scrag, who has brought Casey, and we're going to talk about sim racing, something relatively foreign to me and maybe new to many of you. What's going on, guys?
Not a whole lot. Yeah, sim racing. That is a world I have really delved into over the last, I guess, 16 months or something, year and a half or something like that. Yeah, what do you want to know about sim racing?
What made you get started in it? Or did you already like racing games, or?
No, that's actually interesting. So I had actually no interest in cars at all in my previous life. You know, like this before Road to Racer, no interest in cars. I think a typical guy. You know, I thought cars are cool, kind of thing. You know,
Sure.
And I had played occasional racing games growing up, like Need for Speed, and you know the typical ones that fell into your GameCube or whatever, and you just play with buddies. But really, it was I guess it was a couple months before the channel started. My wife brought a shifter home, like a Logitech H pattern shifter that she got off of an overstock truck. So she got it for free at her job. So she brought it home, and I was like, "Oh, this would be really cool." I said, "I've played racing games before. It'd be cool to get a wheel someday." And it sat in my house. Actually, I got it a year before the channel. Yeah, it sat in my house for a year. And a year went by, came near Christmas, and I was playing Forza Motorsport on Game Pass, something I also didn't pay for, just besides my subscription. And I was like, "Oh, I should really get a wheel for this thing." And it kind of went from there. So it all started with this Logitech shifter that just kind of fell into our lap, and piqued my interest, and then it just blew up into whatever I'm doing now. You know.
Okay, so how often do you sim race now?
That's a great question, because I sim race every freaking day, every single day. I don't go a day without doing some sort of activity at this wheel. And 90% of the time, it's not for content. I just literally fell in love with this hobby for what it is. Yeah.
Scrag, what about you?
I got into it around the same time that Casey did, because I was really wanting to try it out. And then I had seen Casey's videos about like, oh, you can get this equipment for pretty cheap and it's fun, et cetera, et cetera. And we're kind of like on the same level in terms of like our journey into it, but he's raced a whole lot more than me. Behind me, I've got my rig, but my rig is kind of, it is put away right now. You can't see it. Sorry. I tried. It's put away right now because I haven't really had time to race. I race like maybe once a month now. So yeah.
So sim racing, I have a couple friends that get into this, but I haven't had like a super in-depth conversation with it. But my understanding from a distance is that there's quite a range. Like it can start out as I should put a wheel on Forza that I was already playing with a controller or something, and can venture to like people who have effectively recreated a vehicle and have screens all around them and are in competitive leagues where there's like sponsorships and cash. Like it's racing. Like it's just racing without a car. How far along that trajectory are you guys, and like what does that look like?
So for me, I'll start here. Without the channel and without the support of like companies and sponsors and things like that, I would have stopped at that original wheel that I bought for Christmas. Because I bought that wheel and made a video just because I'm generally creative with my cameras, and I was bored waiting for the wheel to come, and I was like, I'll make a little video on it. And that very first video actually starts out with, this is not a sim racing YouTube channel, but the video did really well, and that kind of skyrocketed from there. So to be honest, I would still be on the desk with my clamp wheel, my Fanatec CSLDD. What is that? What was that bundle? $499 for pedals and wheel, Scrag?
It was like $500. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like $500 for pedal and wheel, and that's a decent wheel to start with. Like you could have started at like $200 for like a cheap Logitech. So
which is what I did, yeah.
Right, and for me, I would have stayed there, and that would have been pretty much the end of my upgrade. Yeah, I mean, because I just don't have the money. That's the problem. So this hobby can be as expensive as you want it to be. Right. And at the moment, I'm at the point of having a rig and a single monitor. I have one screen in front of me. I guess the next step for me is that I get triples, a monitor on my left and right. That's like the next big upgrade for this setup. And once it's there, the rest is just really flashy stuff, to be honest. That's kind of like where people normally they get to and they're like, okay, this is good. But
I've
yeah,
not
and
found
there's no
monitors
room
to be
in here either.
expensive. Yeah, I've
Do
not
what?
found monitors. I have not found monitors to be expensive. I went full time
Right.
for a while, and I run 4, so I have
Right.
4 monitors here now because it was set up for MMO. I was playing 3 MMOs at the same time, and then 1 for my OBS.
Mhm.
So I would have Guild Wars, WoW, and Final Fantasy up at the same time, and I would be like fishing in all 3 games simultaneously.
Very
And
nice.
so that's what allowed that, is that you have each, and so it's just you looking around. So like I will tell you, monitors are not that bad as long as you look at like Black Friday deals. What gets you is the mounts. So like what is all the, because the mount to hold these 4 I think was every bit as expensive as all 4 monitors. So
Nah,
like
it's
what,
not that bad. Nah, it's like you can
what
get a good
holds the
mount.
pedals?
So okay, I'll cover this one for a sec. Basically, when I started, right, just like Casey, I just had a wheel and pedals.
Okay.
So from that, you sort of like either have like a recliner or an office chair that you put shoes under so it doesn't slide around.
Yeah,
Okay.
the shoes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a real thing.
Okay.
And then from there, what people typically do is they build a wooden like 4x4 structure to screw everything into so that they can sit in it with like a chair from the junkyard or something like that, right?
Okay. And you get like an actual chair from a car.
Yeah, you just go to a junkyard with a wrench and you're like, hey, I'm here to get a seat. And they're like, go ahead, it's $10. And then you get the seat and they're like, all right.
Oh, really? I would have
$25.
assumed they're more than that. They're not like,
Well, no, it's $10 to get in. And then
Oh,
anything
okay,
you
yeah,
rip off of a car, you have to pay
What,
for
40
it.
bucks they
for it.
charge, 30, 40 bucks they charge you for a seat out of a car. Like
Yeah,
it's, it
yeah.
can't be
I
a whole
mean,
lot.
the place
Depending
I
on the
go
car,
to,
maybe.
they're kind of a little bit racist, so you pay double if you're not their
okay.
color.
Oh boy.
But so I ended up paying like $60, but nah, it was fine. And then from there, what you do next is you get an aluminum rig. I don't know if you guys can see that, but this is all angled aluminum.
okay.
And with that, you can get mounts that will screw directly into the angled aluminum that you have on your rig, and those hold the monitors. And those are like $200 for like a whole set. So it's not bad.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
So like everything is held together by one big piece of like multiple pieces and hundreds of screws of angled aluminum.
Yes. Yeah.
And in the computer to run this, is it any more than anybody else that's running a gaming computer? Like
Not
I run a 3080.
You'd be fine to sim race. Yeah.
Yeah. Typically, you don't want to race with like anything like 60 or below, roughly, if you're doing 3 screens, because a lot of the racing games, you want to try to get as high of a refresh rate as you can.
Okay.
Just for like clarity reasons. And the monitors that I have, like you were saying, monitors are not expensive. I got these for like $200 a piece, and
There are
they're
nice
165 hertz.
There are nice monitors out there, but I found that if I wasn't attached to brand, I could get the performance I needed.
Yeah,
shockingly affordably.
Well, the problem with the ones that I have is they have really bad ghosting. So when you're driving at like 180 miles an hour, no matter what, you have motion blur, even if you have it turned off. So, you know,
Oh, that sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
it adds to the element of speed, though. You probably feel really
does.
fast with all the ghosting. Yeah.
And then I'm fairly ignorant on all of this. So, like, is this all being predominantly done through one game? Are there many games that are supporting this community?
Yeah, so basically everybody's start is typically in a game from a console like Gran Turismo or Forza. Those are the things that get us interested in sim racing, and they're kind of the things that start to give us the building blocks. They're the games that give us those building blocks of, oh, you can't just, drift around every corner like you can in a Need for Speed game.
Sure.
There's actually some simulated things going on here, like your brakes can lock, or your wheels can lock up. You can enter ABS in your car. You can have traction control and all these things. And those are the games that start to like give you a taste of it. And then once you come over to PC, which is where most of the simulators live, besides a couple console ports, and that's when you start getting into games like iRacing, which is highly competitive and costs a lot. You get into games like Assetto Corsa, Le Mans Ultimate, Automobilista 2. So there's like, what is it, probably like six titles or something on PC. They're pretty renowned.
Yeah, I would say that's
actual racing sims where the sim is like everybody has the fanboy. There's fanboys for every game that will say this sim sucks and my sim's the sim that's the best. Sure. And it's like that with everything. I will say that simulators in the racing industry probably have the hardest time with being called simulators because the perfection that people expect. I think like if you look at all the other games that have the simulator title, like Farming Simulator,
Yeah, I love Farming Simulator.
Right,
I played it. I've
watched
competitive Farming Simulator.
Right,
but competitive Farming Simulator is not farming. Like
yes,
they're
because
launching
a farmer,
hay bales because it's time based.
Right,
So
a farmer would look at Farming Simulator and say, "Well, I get it. It's a cool game where you farm, and that's it." But if you have a guy who likes cars and you say Racing Simulator to a car guy, he gets instantly triggered. Like, especially if he's not into the racing sim universe, it's like it's so threatening to so many people outside of sim racing who are into cars, and it's like the word simulator means something different for sim racing.
It's like
I've noticed,
like flight simulators. So
yeah.
I have a family member that's a pilot, and he has to go do flight simulators.
Yeah,
but that's not Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like as good as Microsoft Flight Simulator is,
right.
He's in something that is more officially mandated. I don't know if Microsoft Simulator can't imitate a lot of the same things, but like it's part of his job. So I assume that some of the race car drivers do have simulators. Are they?
They absolutely do.
Oh yeah.
So there's some that use some of the GT3 guys use ACC which is crazy because you hear a lot of people say that game sucks, but then the actual GT3 driver, he trains on it in the weekend. You know what I mean? So like there's so many people in sim racing who have this this thing in their head of how a real car should drive, right? Who's that?
This is IRCC.
So, but like F1 drivers, they use these things to train, like on the weekends, and then they come out to track and apply what they've learned from the sim. So it's objectively false to say that it doesn't do a good job. You know what I mean? Like, or it's not at least close because it's been told by so many people. Even Max Verstappen vouches for this thing, like the fastest dude in the freaking world. Like, so, but yeah, sim racing gets a tough rap because the word simulator, people take it so serious. You know?
Sure. And then you say iRacing's expensive. Last week we were talking about, a player who plays gacha games. Help me understand like what the cost radius is here. So you talked about like $500 for an initial setup on the gaming PC that you already have, or on a console game you already have. Mm-hmm. What's the ramp up?
So when you're looking at iRacing, you're talking $13 a month. That is to gain access to the online racing and the game. You can't even use your content unless you are paying for the subscription. There's no offline mode. Okay. So now you're looking at $11 to $12 per car and $15 per track. And in total, I think the total cost because you do get discounts buying in bulk, but I think there's almost $5,000 and like $4,000 or $5,000 in actual content in iRacing. So you could own all $4,000 or $5,000. And if you're not paying that $13 a month, you don't own any of it. You don't get to use any of it. So, so
you're not going to scare an MMO player. MMO players are like, yeah.
Right. And see, to me coming into this, I wasn't an MMO player. So when I first saw iRacing, my first 6 months of iRacing, I was strictly against it. I was like, that's just out of my catalog of what I would pay for with my own finances. Yep. And then as the year went on, I started dipping my toes into the free content or the subscription content. And what's given to you off the get-go, which is actually pretty good. You could spend a year there and probably be happy. And then as you start increasing your license, they start like dipping your toes into like, I'll buy this car and then I'll maybe buy this track so I can race it these 4 weeks out of the season. And but now that I'm in it, I don't think the cost is as expensive as I once thought because the service is there, online racing any time of day with multiple splits of cars. So like you just get on and you're always racing with people. The racing is good because you literally sign up with your real name. And did I sign up with my driver's license for that game? Or did I have to give an ID?
Card. And the credit card is what your account is.
Yeah. So your real name.
Doxing creators.
Well, see, if you are a creator,
a lot of creators hate it.
If you're a creator, you can actually request for your name to be changed in the game.
And then I guess iRacing will review your credentials, but also the support you get from them is incredible too. Like if you ever have an issue, you just message iRacing and they're taking care of it. Like, it's not like you're caught in limbo. And if someone is terrible on track, you can report that driver with a video of what they did, and the driving is clean because drivers will get bans for like bad behavior on track. There's no slamming each other off track to win a race. Like if you do that, you will get your account pulled. Like, So there's
you
a
buy
reason it costs.
So you buy a track, $15,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And then if that track doesn't come back up in circuit, like you just need to buy whatever. Like, can I race the same track all year?
No. So every week
Yeah.
the track changes depending on what league you're doing. So
Okay.
for example, in the beginner leagues, all the tracks are free, all the cars are free.
Great.
And as you level up or get a better license in that particular series, then that's when the paid stuff starts to come up. So for example, if you want to be a race car, like quote unquote race car street type driver, you'll drive my car, the MX-5, for like a month or two, and then you'll drive like, what is the next step up from that? I can't remember. Like a GT4.
It's the GR86.
Oh, then you drive the GR86, which is also free, and then you have to start buying some tracks, and it just keeps going. But eventually, you're gonna have, say you spend $15 a week on tracks for 4 or 5 months, and you don't have to race them if you don't want to. Like you can just skip a week. Then at that point, stuff starts coming back, and you have to buy less and less.
So this is back to the Warhammer podcast. We've been making the rounds through all the adjacent hobbies in Scrag and I's life, and so this is back to Warhammer, where if you just need to budget for year one, feeling like they're constantly asking for money, but after that, it should be pretty manageable.
Right. And there's nothing stopping you from doing like private leagues with like friends and stuff where you can just like race the tracks that you guys have and not have to pay for new tracks every week.
Okay.
Right. I'm considering joining a league actually, Scrag.
So when you join a league, do you pay to be in the league? Is this like a bracket when people watch sports? Like I pay to be in and there's prize money coming out?
Not really. Whoever runs the league has to pay for server time, but that's like $2 for like 2 hours or something like that. It's like not much.
I'm sure there are paid leagues with money pools and things like that. I guarantee there is, but like I said, I think the whole thing is expensive if you want to make is as expensive as you want to make it. I would say that
play iRacing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can go pick up a Assetto Corsa on sale for like $13, and that game is moddable beyond belief. It's 13 years old, but with mods and the way the community supported it, I'm also very easy to install mods now too. It's just like download this launcher, it installs it all, and now your game looks 13 years newer, and you can put any car in it with a drag and drop and do whatever you want. And there's so many options and things to do in sim racing. Like I said, it can cost as little or as much as you want.
Yeah, like the bare minimum to play is a computer, a Logitech wheel or other variant.
Some guys
like
even still race simulators with controller, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard, but
it's stupid hard. I mean, like minimum you're looking at like maybe like $15, and maximum it's like however much you want to spend. Like Joe Rogan recently spent $60K on a simulator. So
but you know, like the actual dash from the car and like
no, it's just a normal simulator, but he had a company pre-build it for him, so he just paid out the ass for it.
Yeah, he had it paint them. He had them paint it a custom Porsche color and stuff like that. So
yeah,
okay. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to iRacing, like we say, you're typically going to be looking at spending about, $15 ish on a car for a season, and then you're probably going to spend like maybe like $100 or $200 on tracks, depending on how many weeks you take part in.
Yeah, it depends on how many. So this is the way it works. So if there's 14 weeks in a season, and if I go, I'm like, okay, this season I'm going to buy the Ferrari. I want to race the Ferrari. So now I buy the Ferrari and I go look at the Ferrari schedule because it has its own series that it runs all season. Every week the track changes, and I can look at it and be like, okay, I actually already own 3 of these weeks, so maybe I'll buy 2 more, and then I can almost race half the season. And on those off weeks, I'll just go back and race the free content. Right. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of, I just kind of like plan out my season for iRacing. I look at it and be like, I'll buy 3 tracks. And on these weeks where I'm not able to race my Ferrari, I already have these things that I know I'm going to enjoy by looking at the other schedules. So yeah, it's just kind of about planning out your,
and the races are scheduled. Like it's against a set group of people.
So they happen once an hour, staggered. So if you do road racing, there will be a race every hour, and what it is, what league it is or whatever, That just depends on how they're staggered. Same for every other type of racing. So if you log on, there's going to be something to do within 30 minutes or an hour of you logging on.
Okay. How does that score within a league? So like this sounds more like Zwift. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zwift.
It's very similar to Zwift, yeah.
Zwift is like if you took an exercise bike and you took Wii Sports and you just made it like a competitive thing. So your little guy on the screen pedals and you can join races and you can also just go pedal yourself. And then of course they sell cosmetics and stuff if you want your little guy to have different socks and all that. So it sounds a lot like that. When you say you join a league, though, does that mean I've agreed to race on Friday
just like a bowling league, man? Yeah.
So you can do that. You can do that. When I say joining a league, what I mean is like this season I am going to race the Porsche 993 GT3. That is what I'm racing. And then whenever a race comes up, it'll be either fixed or what's the other word? Fixed or non-fixed?
I guess non-fixed is
fixed or open. Fixed is like we set up the cars for you and you use whatever setup we give you. And the other one is you can make your own setups. It's like more of a hardcore thing where like you set the angles, the pressure levels, the everything, right? And there will typically be fixed and unfixed for whatever the quote unquote league is for that car. So every week there will be a race for that car, no matter what track it is. So that's what I mean when I say you're doing a league. And some people do multiple. Like me, whenever I was racing every week, I was doing Formula, and I actually got sponsored by a company to do Formula, and then road. So I would do both.
Some of these wheels look like they're actively giving resistance. I assume
they
can make this as
they can break your arms.
Like.
Yeah.
They
can break your wrist and stuff. Yeah, I actually hurt my wrist earlier this year. Sim racing, yeah.
Yeah, so
you need to start doing the same training that the pros do.
Yeah, so
they do all sorts of fitness.
Yeah, and these pop these wheels just all pop off and on. And the wheelbase I'm on right now is they measure it in 18 Newton meters. It's a measurement of torque. And the one I'm on is 18. And the one I was on was 10. And if I were to run this 18 at its full capacity, so it kind of works the same way sound does. So basically, the normal person is content with 12 to 15 Newton meters of torque. That is like when you're starting to dip into the actual steering strength of a race car. Anything over is headroom for clarity. Because when I say clarity, I'm talking every wheel on your car is passing telemetry to your hands. So if your left front wheel dips into a crevice, it passes that information through the wheel and into your hands because and you feel it. Yeah. So like if the left side of my car dips down and I'm going to get a whip from the wheel, and it's all run off of these servo motors have like magnets and stuff in them. So they're pretty much silent. So it's able to, and you can turn it to 18 all the way up, which is way too strong. And then you can also go into iRacing and dial iRacing strength up so high that you almost can't turn this wheel. It can almost resist your full strength. But now it's just like sound. You're now clipping. There's no detail left to give. You're blowing out a microphone basically. And so now you're just getting strong and you're not getting details at all. And sim racing is all about the details because the details, you're getting information from your wheel saying, hey, your tires are slipping, or, you can feel the loss of grip when your tires start to go. And you can then judge how to correct it by micro corrections and stuff. It's wild.
Does this make you want to watch actual racing?
I do watch actual racing. I do. No, I did start. I actually every Saturday and Sunday now I watch the GT World Series on YouTube while I'm cleaning house or whatever. And then me and my wife started watching Drive to Survive this last week. It's a little dramatized version of the F1 series, but it's pretty good. It honestly, it's a good time. It's just a bunch of rich boys complaining about their race cars and stuff.
Have you tried going out and doing like a track day yourself?
I went to my first rally this year, motorsport rally in Missouri, and we had a couple of people from the channel come down and meet up. Kind of did like a community meetup. And it was my to watch it. It was out in the woods, like I'm talking gravel road rally,
Yeah.
And which was awesome to see it in person. I'd never been to a motorsport event before, so But yeah, it's my goal to visit a couple tracks in the U.S. now. I'd like to go see Laguna Seca out in California. It's probably one of my favorite tracks. Also, I think Summit Point is in, or no, Lime Rock is in New York, I think. Lime Rock would be cool to see at some point. Yeah, there's a lot of cool tracks in the U.S. that would be really neat to go visit.
Would you think about getting behind the wheel or doing a ride along?
Yeah, it was so funny too. Is my wife has a lead foot, dude. So like me, I've always been the grandma driver, you know.
Okay.
So I have started driving faster in my car since sim racing. Admittedly,
Same.
like I still don't exceed the speed limit a lot, but I do find myself often being like, oh, I gotta slow down. And as I used to not. But I would definitely.
This guy's rig is awesome.
Oh yeah. At some point, he's got motion under his. At some point, I would like to do some sort of track day or like some sort of racing experience. I know that my sponsor, Sim HQ, the guys who are like kind of hooking me up with my gear this year and stuff, their headquarters is actually located on the middle of a drift track. So like, I don't know, you probably don't know the channel, but the owner of that company is Adam LZ, and they're talking about at some point getting me in a drift car down in Florida. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Let's whatever that is, let's do it.
Cool.
Not
yeah,
trying to ride your
most
coattails
sports
or
are,
anything, but you should invite me too. You know what I'm saying?
Where do you live?
I'm in
Florida?
Texas.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I would come to drive drift for like, a couple laps or something.
I don't know. I don't know how willing they are to let everybody in the car.
There's plenty of it here in Texas. If you want to do ride-alongs or if you want to go do a track day yourself where you get behind the wheel. I've ridden in a NASCAR here, so they're doing like 165, but I wasn't behind the wheel. But I was there the same day. My dad was actually paid for the fancier version. He got to drive several laps.
Oh, cool. Nice.
I was a college kid and my parents paid for the time for me to ride, but I didn't have the money to cover the difference. They said, you can drive, you can cover the difference. And I was like, I can't.
What was it like moving 165 miles an hour?
Everything up to 100 felt oddly slower than it does on the real road because you're in a controlled environment. There's not risk. Everything over 100 starts to feel kind of like when you're exceeding the speed limit. It's up to like maybe 130. Starts to feel a lot like if you're doing 5 or 10 or 15 over a speed limit in a street environment. Everything over 135 didn't feel real. Like at that point, you're getting like you're getting sucked into the seat. Your hands get heavy. Like everything, like it just, the physics of it felt kind of like you talked about, like over dialing the Newtons. Like it kind of felt like blown out. Like the sensations didn't feel real because the movement didn't feel so much faster as you piled on that last 30 mile an hour. Like it didn't feel so much faster. It obviously is. Obviously, you know, that's why we get so much safety from racing because
I mean you're going like double and a half the speed of a normal interstate, which think about doing that speed on an interstate, dude. Like Jesus.
So it just feels fast. Like it just made you feel heavy. So it's a cool thing. My parents are huge race fans, so I grew up around NASCAR and Formula One and sprint. Sprint's really fun to watch because sprint feels like watching amateur baseball. Like it just feels chaotic. Like I always liked going to the truck races more than the NASCAR races because that's kind of like the minor league. And I always found the minor leagues more fun because they make mistakes. Like it's not a question of like who has a mechanical issue that's really minor or something. It's like if you're watching MMA and you don't understand jiu-jitsu, when they go to the ground, it's fairly boring until you understand jiu-jitsu. And so this is the same idea that like it's so minor, and there's people that just go watch NASCAR and they just want to drink beer and be a fan of whatever driver like. But if you want to really like understand why somebody's race is going well or poorly, like you can listen into their team, all those things. Like you can have headsets and you can listen into a team, but they're talking about technical stuff. And I found the truck racing to just be a lot more shoot from the hip. And so I always liked that a lot more. But this sim racing just seems so foreign to me.
I think too, a big thing I've seen, you get your, like we were talking about earlier with the simulator stuff, you get a lot of people who say it's nothing like the real thing and blah, and all this stuff, which is fine because I mean it's at the end of the day it's a video game. I always remind them that I'm like, listen, simulator wasn't an attack on your being. It's still a video game. I understand, dude. But the one thing is people ask, they're like, a sim drifter like me, like I drift a lot in sim. I could go to Sim HQ and most likely drift the car fairly easy because of what I've learned in the simulator. If you pull a guy who drifts in real life, even up to formula drift, and put him in a simulator, he will have a very hard time. Reason being that if you're leaving from a simulator to a car, you're getting more information. So not only do you already know all the muscle memory, you know how it works, but now the car is giving you information. So you might even drift better than you did in the sim. Now, if you take a guy from a car and put him in a simulator, he's lost all G-forces, the feeling of weight around him. It's just hands. So he's gonna have a really hard time accepting that this is even close. And that's the big thing too. They always say that it's a lot easier for a sim racer to transition to a car than it is from a race driver to transition to a sim because of loss of information. Because there's so much loss of information here. And like one of the biggest things when someone first sits in the sim is they start driving down the straight and then they wreck and they're like, well, why couldn't I turn? And I'm like, well, you were going 120. And they're like, what do you mean? And it's because it's a sense of speed. After playing for multiple hours, your brain starts to be like, okay, I know what fast is now. Because like, especially in my setup, I have no side monitors. So there's nothing in my peripheral telling me that I'm going fast. If you think about it, like if you're driving in a car, cut out what you can see with your peripheral and just put a box in the middle of your windshield, your car will look like it's going incredibly slow.
Sure.
Because, all these things aren't zooming by. But that's the biggest problem with Sims is that whole get in the simulator, first corner crash and be like, well, I could have took that corner in my car. And I'm like, well, you're doing 130, like there's always an explanation period. But
yeah, I got a different car for work last year than what I had before, and speed feels different. So I can't imagine it feels totally foreign to the previous vehicle.
Right.
And so it would be hard to now take away that information and say, okay, and now in a simulator, I'm going to be able to tell the difference between, speed and not speed, and between these different cars. You talk about jumping cars. I assume there's a drastic difference between a GT3 and an MX5. But
and if the simulator's right. Oh yeah. And if the simulator's doing its job, you will feel a major difference. Like, cause these cars are mapped and scanned and everything from the actual cars. Like in the simulators, they use the actual cars. They laser scan them. They study the suspension. I don't even know how they do it. It's insane watching the videos on how they pull this telemetry from the actual cars as they do laps. I don't know if you knew this, do what?
How many cars do they support?
Depends on the game.
Well, for this, for instance, iRacing has a lot. How many cars are in iRacing?
Over 100.
Over 100?
Yeah. Sure.
But that's been built up over, like 13 years or something. We have a new game coming out this year that's in early access, Assetto Corsa Evo. They're boasting that they're going to have 100 cars in their game by the time early access is done within a year. And I'm like, and they're like top notch at scanning their cars and making sure they drive close to their real life counterparts. And the whole thing's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I have a friend that owns fun cars. He's done very well for himself, but he doesn't trust himself to drive them real hard. And so when he does iRacing, and he only drives cars he owns.
Which is cool. That's cool because then you can set up your rig closest to the cars that you own, your seat height and your pedal distance to where it feels like you're in your car. Yeah.
That's kind of why I haven't been racing as much, is because I bought my MX5. And then once I drove that, I was like, well, I got to get a H pattern shifter for my rig now and a clutch. And I just haven't done it.
Okay. So you drive an MX5 in the game and you drive an MX5 in real life.
Yeah. I mean, I drive other cars in the game, but the MX5 in the game, like I would really enjoy being able to have an H pattern and a clutch, which I don't think you're using them now, Casey, but pretty much everybody at the start of your channel, we were all using like the same pedals, which is the
is it the Heusenfelds or the CSL?
Yeah, the Heusenfelds. Yeah. Those feel excellent.
They do. They're great pedals. Yeah.
So there's something called load cell, which is something I don't think we've talked about yet. They're essentially like a special kind of sensor that senses load and not position. So for example, if I'm putting 180 pounds of pressure on it, it is transmitting 180 pounds of pressure, not 90%. So basically it allows you to like feather your brakes and your pedals. Well, not so much your pedals, but it allows you to feather your brake in a more realistic way. Like whenever you're like, what's the term when you're going around a corner?
Trail braking. Yeah.
Trail braking. Yeah. So it allows you to kind of catch those friction points a little bit easier.
Right.
How does
Because
the
if you
game
think
teach these things? Like, is there
Oh,
tutorials? Like,
no,
is
not
it-
a whole lot. No, it's just
Nope.
kind of like you just kind of get thrown in. There are assists in the game that can help you. It's always recommended that you learn these racing games right off the bat with as little assists as possible, because those are things you're just going to need to. Oh my God, that was a crazy miss there.
Mhm.
The
Hello,
these
is that Elena?
yeah, so but yeah, you race with as little assist as you can. Even the racing line, like on racing games, you have the green thing on the road that shows you where to drive, basically on the track. That like it leads you around the track in a certain line. It's even recommended to turn that off, because you're better just to learn how to read a track yourself than you are to follow a designated line. Because what if there's a driver on your inside when you get into race and you're like, well, I can't get to my line, and then you're all over the place.
Yeah, and you guys watching this, if you're new, might be like, nah, I'll use the line, it's fine. That's how I was too for about a month, and then everyone was like, no, seriously, turn it off, watch what happens. And then my time started getting better. Oh, look at that.
Right.
Kind of
Right,
crazy how everyone says something that's true and you don't believe it.
Yeah, I never crap on anybody for using those assists, because it's all about enjoying the experience, how making sure you enjoy it. Like if you want to use the line, I see plenty of people on YouTube who use the line. But what sucks is like, even though they're still being competitive, their whole comment section is just people shitting on them all the time. It's it's just like, turn off the line, you loser. Like sim racers are so toxic about assist. It's so bad. Yeah.
Is the community pretty like, what do they do well, and what do you think the community kind of can go a little far on?
Oh,
The sim racing community is interesting. I think with everything, there's a big section of our know-it-alls over here. And it's a lot of, you need to do this my way because I know what's best. I think that's the biggest problem with sim racing, especially as a streamer. I get people all the time that come into my chat. Like I had one a couple weeks ago insisting that I set my max brake pressure in iRacing to 80%. Because cars lock up over 80% in iRacing. It's just how the brakes work in that game. So they're telling me I need to set my threshold of my game to where I can mash my pedal as hard as I want, but the game will stop at 80%. I have no interest in that. I want to learn how to control that pressure myself.
What if I don't want to lock it?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to do that. And the guy's just insisting that's the only way to be fast. And I'm like, I don't really care. And then he's like, well, James Baldwin does it. And I was like, who's James Baldwin? And everybody's like, you don't know who James Baldwin is. Apparently he's a GT3 driver. But But like, and they're like, he doesn't. I'm like, well, I don't care. Like, can I play the game my own way? And when I started sim racing, it was the other thing that these games can get very complicated in the sense of you can set up the car down to the camber of the wheels, down to the amount of drag that you have going down the straight. You can change how much the ducts are open on the brakes, and all these things affect temperatures of the tires and the pressures. And me, I still to this day have no interest in setup. And I'm still usually just as fast as all the guys that are asking me to use their setups. So it's just a hobby that has so much customability. I don't know, wrong word. But there's so much customizing in sim racing, and everybody thinks they know best. And I think that's probably the most toxic trait in sim racing. It's just that everybody thinks you should enjoy it the way they enjoy it. And I'm pretty good about saying shut up. What does
progress look like? So in an MMO, for example, the first thing you got to do is you got to get to level cap. After you get to level cap, there's usually some easy content that's meant to be pretty tolerant of just terrible behavior. And then you can kind of like ratchet your way up slowly. And that's done through usually a gear score determines that. So there's a certain amount of items that you have to earn to progress to the next difficulty. And the next difficulty makes you fight a little harder, and then you get another item score increase, and you kind of work your way up to whatever the game considers the highest. And then, of course, the community has found ways to continue to evaluate skill beyond that.
So in iRacing specifically,
it's the best example because they have the best ranking system.
There's a safety rating, which is what your license is based on.
Okay.
So the safer driver you are, the better cars you get to drive. And that is non-negotiable. Like if you are doing what the people in these clips are doing all the time, you're never ever going to be able to race like the high ranking stuff unless you pay for a private server, right? Like they're just not going to let you. And then there's your iRating, which is basically your average of
It's
like
your elo, yeah,
how well you do, like how many podiums you're getting, you know, your average placing, your OTs are kind of not really factored into that. They're factored into your safety rating. But the better you consistently do in terms of being a safe driver, you progress. And the better you do in terms of being a fast driver, you kind of get clout, right? Basically. But in other games, progress may be something more along the lines of like in ACC, there's a league that everyone wants to be in. And in that league, you progress through a similar method, but it's more based on like your speed in general, I think. Am I wrong, Casey? I haven't done it.
Yeah. So, so that is a system that is not integrated in the game. So, like for example, ACC, which is actually, I don't know if you know this, it's a Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's the official racing game of the GT3 World Challenge. So that game has a website that's built around like the same as iRacing. It gives you ranking and stuff like that, but basically you have to earn a license to even drive in it's called LFM. That's what the online service
low
is
fuel
called.
motorsports.
Yeah, you have to earn a license, and to earn a license, they have a server that is the license test, and you have to get on there and put in 7 laps of an average lap time without any off tracks or anything to earn your license. Once the server sees that you did 7 clean laps in a row at the average time, you will get permission to start signing up for races. And from there, you sign up for a race and it says, this is your server code. Everybody goes over, puts in the server code into the server browser, and now they've got a ranked race. So like there are ranking systems outside of these games that people run. And LFM, now that I'm in iRacing, feels so janky that, you know, like having to go to a website and sign up and all this stuff. But I did really enjoy like that. Like you were saying, like, what's the progression? I did enjoy fighting for that license test. That was so rewarding because I was new to sim racing and it was hard. It was like, you need to pull this time on this track and 7 laps in a row, like an average. And it was so hard it took me 80 laps of practice before I even hit the time. And then I was like, okay, I think I can start shaving from here. And then after a while, I did the test and I actually passed it my first 7 laps, clean, no off tracks or anything. And it was like a super moment to be proud of. And then I came back 7 months later. And I was like, I wonder how fast I am on that track now. And I went in there and blew my time away by 2.5 seconds. And I'm like, where'd that come from? So yeah, there's definitely a progression in sim racing based on either ranks. And there's also that progression of just your general ability, like in any game, like you're always getting better and becoming a better racer and learning new things by videos or courses and things like that.
Staying calm under pressure, things of that nature.
Yeah. Loosening your grip. There's so many like things in sim racing. The skill floor is insane on sim racing. And what's crazy is there's guys in the top split of sim racing that are the best who still race on Logitech wheels on a desk. That's no joke. Like, people are crazy.
Yeah.
What do you think? So where do people start? How do people get going? Like, what's the best game for beginners? Let's just assume the money portion has sorted itself out. Like, so definitely in like this community, the subscription $13 a month doesn't scare me. I mean, not everybody's thrilled about MMO subscriptions, but most of us swallow them.
Right. I would suggest taking a similar path to what I took, which is start out with either Gran Turismo, probably not Forza, not
the
like
new ones was a bust unless you're on console. If you're on PC, the new Forza is still a little scuffed.
Start out with Gran Turismo. Do like a season of Gran Turismo. You will learn a lot of stuff. And then from there, maybe pick up ACC, which is you can get on sale for like $5 or $10. It's got like a ton of content that you can do. It's very good about like kind of teaching you a little bit more on the sim side rather than the game side, which is like Gran Turismo is like right there, but not like quite over the line.
It'll teach you pit stops and stuff. It'll teach you like the more things that are actually racing related. Like you'll learn pit stops, you'll learn tire pressures, and it does that through a minimal campaign mode that most people don't finish. They just kind of get dip their toes in to understand the game. But I think ACC is a good recommendation for a good starting point.
Yeah, and then after that, once you're at the point where you're like, okay, I like this. This is cool. And you've kind of got like the equipment that you want to get, or you at least have it in mind. I mean, because for a rig, we're not talking like $500 and you're done. We're talking about like $500 is the start. And then you spend $700 on a wheel and a base. And then you spend like $500 on a pedal. And then you spend like $200 on a handbrake.
Right. This rig with the wheels and shifters is shifter, monitor, wheels, the e-brake, the wheelbase, the seat. About $4,400 is what my rig costs. Yeah.
And I think mine's like 500, 600.
And I'm proud to say I paid for none of it.
You did that. You did it one part at a time.
Thank God. Yeah. Mine was all sponsorship stuff.
And it came in all at once.
No, over this last year, I've been receiving that stuff slowly. The only thing I bought, I really bought for the sim rig, I bought a shifter, an e-brake, and the original wheelbase that started the channel. But those things are all shelved right now. Everything else on this rig is, was sponsorships and companies' reviews and things like that.
Yep. My stuff total was about $3,000, I would say, not including the computer. But I mean, like, that is not unreasonable when it's been like a couple of years now, basically. And also, this stuff keeps its value more or less. Like, if you buy a handbrake, like I have a Husink built handbrake. If I want to sell that, I can pretty much get 80% of what it costs. So, it holds its value pretty well, I would say. Unless it's like a Logitech wheel, in which case, it's 50% off as soon as you open the box, Okay. But yeah, I mean, it is expensive once you get to our level, but to enjoy the hobby, and I say our level, Casey's stuff is far better than mine, but to enjoy the hobby in itself, like just racing, you don't even really need to spend that much money.
You can do it at a desk. The one thing I recommend for new sim racers is at least invest in a wheel stand, like $60 on Amazon, and you can get a wheel stand. That means basically that even your rolly chair, they sell wheel stands where the wheels will have like a little spot that they sit in, and basically that anchors you to the wheel. But that gives you something to mount your pedals on and to hold your wheel. That way you're connected, because having a consistent positioning for the way you sit is like one of the most important things to just like really enjoying the hobby. My worst time, but the thing I don't miss the most is putting the freaking shoes under my chair, dude. Oh my God. Like trying to sit on it, because you got to position your chair. Now your weight's in the chair and you're like, all right, this is exactly where I need to be. Now you got to get these shoes under the wheels of a rolling chair. And I'm like trying to tilt, but when I tilt, the chair moves a couple inches, but then once you get in, now your chair rocks back and forth because it's on two shoes. And that's just a common thing that people use as shoes, just because they have the grip to stop because when you put pressure on your brake pedal, your chair is just going to shoot backwards. So I always recommend people, if they're going to get a wheel, always try to spend that extra $60 and get yourself like a GT Omega wheel stand or something on Amazon, because you will enjoy the hobby a lot more. You can even get folding ones that you can fold up and go in the corner.
Yeah, you can get a rig in quotes that's like $200 or $300, and you bolt your wheel to it, and it unfolds like a lawn chair, and then you lay down in it. What I did when I started was I had my Logitech wheel, like the GT, whatever it's called, and I bolted it to a plastic fold-up table, and then I have like a Lazy Boy recliner, and I would put 2x4s underneath it so it wouldn't rock back and forth. And then I had like a storage container that I would put my pedals up against. And then so I would crawl in and pull the table back so that the wheel was in the right place. And that's how I would race. So you can get creative.
Scribe, what is this guy racing with? What am I looking at down here? What was that? It was one back. He had his hands on top of the wheel and looked like he was doing something with his fingers. Maybe he's disabled or something and doesn't have pedals, or
I don't know. My internet's being slow.
Okay. Well, when it comes,
I'll tell you, a lot of this is like Zwift racing. So Zwift racing, to start out, you just need a basic sensor on your bike. There are some leagues out there that won't let you in with sensors that can be easily manipulated. But you just need like a bicycle on a stand, and it just needs to have like a power monitor or a speed monitor for your pedals, and that's it. And then it just needs to have like a TV or a laptop in front of you. It's fairly minor, but you can get to where people have these bikes that like go up and down, and there's a resistance in the wheel set so that if you're pedaling uphill, it like makes you want to get up out of your seat. And like,
that's essentially what force feedback is, in a way.
And when you're going around turns, you can kind of bank a little bit, and so it starts to kind of imitate a lot of those things, and you work your way. People that get into it, I have it for this bicycle here. I have Zwift, and I'll tell you, I like Zwift. I don't really like exercise, and so when I'm exercising,
don't get into sim racing then.
Like
I get my sweat on in here, man.
It's actively uncomfortable, and so my wife will be out in the living room, and she got a set of headphones that hook to the TV because she could hear me through the wall, because it's just me in here using foul language as like the next hill comes, and I'm just like drenched in sweat, and I'm trying to just tell myself to suck it up, and it's just and some of these races are like, I mean, they're not all short. Like you can sign up for some pretty long races, So when I first signed up, I was signing up for these like little short sprints, but sprints, then you're working hard the whole time. Because for these other people, they're like, oh, I can sprint all day. So I actually found the longer races I did better, but then now you've agreed to be longer. To me already feels like an hour, and that's not long. There's much longer.
Oh, really?
Events. Yeah.
For me, a 40-minute race is pretty long. For me, I'm good at 40, but I have done a 24-hour endurance, which is, you swap off, but we did 4 drivers. So we each took, we were taking like, I think we were doing a couple hour stints each and rotating. Yeah, you pull over. Yep, you pull over into the pits, and it passes control of the car to the next driver. So it's a really cool experience, like being with a group of buddies and passing the car off to one another. It's like it is really a cool experience. And then we're spotting them and stuff, or we're going off to get food, and we come back, and they're like, "Hey, we're pulling into pits," and you're like communicating, "Hey, on your way in, set the tire pressures for this and that." And then when it pits, all those adjustments they made, the pit crews or whatever, they make those adjustments, and then it passes control of the car over to you, and you take off in the pits, and you're all responsible for this one virtual metal car for 24 hours. It's pretty cool.
And if you wreck it, it's done. Like, is it like a true Le Mans experience?
There's a repair. No, so there are repair. Most games are friendly with the repair times. I think iRacing, you can get into some lengthy ass repair times.
Yeah, like 20 minutes.
Up to 20 minutes where you're just parked.
And sometimes it'll just tell you it's going to take you longer to repair the car than the race is, so you should just quit.
Right. But like we did on the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring, we did the 24, and it was like I was learning the track. I don't know if you know what track that is. If you grew up in racing, I'm sure you know what it is.
Pull it up for everyone who doesn't.
Yeah, I played a ton of racing games growing up.
Okay, perfect. So I had never
had my old N64 wheel that my dad would use.
Oh, nice. So I didn't know that track when I started sim racing. So when it came to ACC and a DLC pack, I had to learn it. And then we all signed up for the 24-hour race. So I had like a week to learn this track, and it's 86 turns or whatever. Oh, nice. Look at that guy.
Nintendo 64 Mad Cats.
It's a 45 Newton meter there. Look at that thing.
So I don't know.
That's awesome.
My dad got really into that. My parents are downsizing into their like 59 and up community, and they're right. Their house. So I've got a bunch of random stuff around here.
Right. But yeah, we were 12 hours in, and the forecast started calling for rain because these things happen. Like you actually get forecasting in Sims. Mm-hmm. So they're calling for rain. So they're like, Casey, end your stint early. They're like, we're going to pit for wets on this lap, because if you go over, you're out there for 9 more minutes. And if it starts pouring rain 4 minutes in, you're looking at a very bad lap for the rest of the other 5 minutes. So we pitted, he took over the car and went out. And then so the other 2 drivers, they went to sleep. They were European and they went to sleep. And it was like me and him were responsible for the car for the rest of the night. My buddy Jeff, and we're both like new to the track. It's raining. It's nighttime, and we're terrifying. Like, "Oh, it's terrifying."
Can you see?
Yeah. I'm seeing third person of his car. So I'm
a lot
seeing
more advantage than like an actual crew.
Yes. So more advantage. So I can spot him, and like be like, "Hey, you've got," and I can see the relatives too. I can be like, "Hey, you've got a car coming up, a faster car coming up behind you about 3 seconds out," kind of communicating that. But it's funny because we don't know the track, and here we are in the dark and in the rain. The track's not lit, and we're like calling out corners, and Jeff will be like, "Casey, what corner's next? I don't remember." And like he's all got the car on the limit, and I'm like, "I don't know." it was like one of the cooler experiences I've done since started sim racing. It's something I would definitely do again. Endurance racing it's just cool to have that ability to teamwork and virtually pass off this car to one another. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things to do personally is to go on the Nürburgring with the Formula car and drive for like 3 hours straight, full throttle.
Yeah, that's the magic of a sim. You can do whatever you don't. There's no rules and restrictions. You just do whatever you want.
Because Formula cars, are much faster than what I think is probably safe on that track. A lot of people get hurt on that track, but since it's a sim, it doesn't matter. And I've gotten really, really good at getting like sub 7 minute combined laps with just a Formula car. Like, it doesn't even matter which one. I really like the Ferrari F2000.
Yeah, the 2004 is wild.
Yeah,
that car is so stable.
the thing about that, when I do that, if I'm having like a bad day and I do it for like 2 or 3 hours. But whenever I drive Formula, I turn my wheel all the way up to 100%, and I have a 12 Newton meter wheel. So when I'm done, I get out and my entire body is just covered in sweat, and I can like barely lift my arms because it's just like the whole time. Like, if this is my wheel, if I put like all my force into my arms, I get like that much. So it's like, right, like the whole time, and it shakes you. Like if you hit
like in like a VR set, is that what he's doing?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, I actually it's my favorite. It's my favorite way to race. Because I feel fast. It's one of those sense of speed things. My head's in the car and my head's bobbing around, and like things are going by fast. VR is my favorite way to race. I just don't do it a lot because a lot of times I'm streaming and it's just more resources from the computer to run stream at a high quality and VR and all that stuff.
You like VR better than if you were to have 3 monitors?
I don't know. I can't compare. I've heard people say I would like the 3 monitors better, but there's something about feeling like you're in the car to me. Like, I don't have my room around me or anything when you're in VR. It's like me. I can look down at the gauges. I can look in my passenger seat and see my favorite part of VR is literally just using my mirrors. Like, I turn off all HUD when I'm in VR. I turn off the thing that tells me what place I'm in. I turn off the mini map. Everything's gone because I'm in the car and I don't even have a radar up. I literally use the mirrors because to me, that's like the ultimate racing experience. I'm in a car and I'm looking over at mirrors left and right and checking my blind spots. I'm looking over my shoulder before like I make a move. It's wild. Yeah, VR is the ultimate experience for me.
When you switch like that, does it damage your rating? Like, as you're screwing around with other cars and stuff? Like, is there unranked
if you're screwing around, you don't want to be in a race.
In a ranked race, right?
Yeah.
You can rank race in VR. There's plenty of people who do it. I've done it a few times in iRacing, and I would say my pace maybe is a little bit less in VR because there's so much going on, and I don't have all that. Even though you have the more visual information, I don't use as much on-screen information. Like, I don't use radars and things like that. So I feel like I'm not as fast in VR because I'm like when I'm in VR, I'm more about being immersed than I am being competitive. Which is why I typically don't race a lot of competitive in VR. But that's my go-to if I'm just here chill, especially in drifting, like when you're drifting and stuff. Like, just like looking, because you get to look into your corners like you're drifting with a car on your inside and you're like checking his door and stuff, and making sure you're not too close. It's cool.
Yeah, people like to laugh at me whenever I do drifting on my triples. And the reason why you would use VR is if you don't have triples. Because like when I'm drifting, I'll be like, I have my hand up here. This is my drift wheel. And I'm just like,
his head just rotates left and right. It's hilarious because he's checking his doors, but on stream it looks hilarious. Yeah.
It's just like,
it's like, what are you doing? But he's actually checking his sides.
I'm looking into the corner. Like whenever you're drifting, you're if this is the road, this is your car, so you're looking out your right door to see if you're still going in the right direction. But it is funny though.
So as you guys get better, do you have to get promoted? Do you want to get promoted? What is the methodology there?
It's good to get promoted, but you get promoted if you get better, but it doesn't affect you from doing the earlier races. You can still go back and do any of those old license races. You're just risking being with drivers who are not as good.
But
does that hurt you at all?
Big but. It does. So when Casey finally started doing iRacing, I was like, I had a B license.
Mm-hmm.
And I did one race.
And I had D
on the MX5. One race. and someone hit me, and because they hit me, that counted as my infraction, and because the license was 2 below mine, I got hit way harder. I lost an
Massively.
entire point of safety rating. So
Yeah,
like
and that's
in
hard
order
to
to
gain
get a
back.
promotion, you need a point, and you need a what, 4 points?
4 points
Mid-season?
for instant promotion, or if
Yeah.
you're at 3 points in your current license, by the time
Yeah.
the season flips, you'll get a promotion for being over 3.
Yeah, so I had 3.5, so I was 0.5 away from being promoted to A or B, I don't remember. But I went down an entire point. I went down to 2.5. So at that point, I had to grind to get back up to 3 in order to like still get promoted at the end of the season. And I was just like, basically, hey, sorry, Casey, I can't drive with you. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hard. So like that's a difference between it and MMOs is you can go back and play with friends. It just doesn't reward you, but it doesn't hurt you.
You can do
I mean, you can
unranked
still-
races as well.
yeah.
They have unranked series like the NASCAR trucks or whatever those are, the oval
Yeah.
trucks. That's an unranked race, but it's wild. And you usually do get it. You're also not guaranteed to get into the same split as your friend. Like you might
Unless-
sign up for the
unless-
race and they get thrown in a different split.
If you do what is it, rallycross, if you do rallycross, there's usually like 6 people, so you're always going to be in the same race with your buddy.
Yeah. And so I guess that's one thing about sim racing too. If you're going to race with friends, it's either you're going to do that privately. We do that a lot in Automobilista too. I mean, a bunch of the guys jump in and do just evening races where we all just bullshit for 5 hours, 3 or 4 hours. But if you're really wanting to race with friends competitively, the best way is to do endurance racing. Because like jumping onto a track with your buddy as individuals normally just doesn't happen. And even when it does, you don't end up really near each other. There's not a lot of, it's just by chance if you get near each other. So yeah, a lot of the friend stuff comes down to just like private lobbies and servers and maybe doing fun things like drifting.
And if you practice with the same guys all the time and your times are similar, then you'll probably get in the same split, but it's not guaranteed.
Right. Especially if the race is popular. Yeah.
Well, Casey, where can people find you? What do you want to shout out?
You can check me out at Road to Racer on YouTube. I do sim racing comedy and very lighthearted reviews. I still don't consider myself an expert, so I do a lot of showcases is what I call my reviews, where I just kind of show the wheel. I have comedy mixed in with a little bit of whatever personality I've got going on. And that's kind of the whole channel. I'm just out here. My whole goal for my channel is to make sure sim racing is fun. It's fun for the people watching. It's always fun for me. If it's not fun, I just won't do this anymore. If iRacing ever gets a hold of my soul and hurts me, I'll stop playing it, which could happen. But yeah, Road to Racer, that's where I'm at on Instagram, YouTube, and wherever else. I guess TikTok, I post there, but I don't engage.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Next week, Brian will be back. So we'll be back at your normal scheduled time. Hopefully you guys all have a wonderful weekend. If it's a holiday weekend for you, hopefully that is restful and wonderful in whatever way you want it to be. And we will see you guys next week.
Adios.